Right, moving on to yet another earnings candidate. Well, Nifty IT was a top sectoral gainer. In fact, after posting its results from Infosys, we'll watch out for how that moves tomorrow as well. A good set of numbers coming in. LTIMindtree is another candidate that posted good set of results in Q1. And before we wind down on this edition of Rush Hour, we'll leave you with the management, what the management had to say. We caught up with Sudhir Chaturvedi, who's the president and executive board member of LTIMindtree and LTIMindtree's BFS client executive. Johnson Ediso, who's the Group Chief Information and Technology Officer, ABSA Group, to talk about the results. Let's go across and take a look at this slice of the conversation.
This quarter for us, BFS returned back to growth with 2.6% quarter on quarter. And along with tech and services, BFSI and tech and services are 60% of our revenue. So the majority of our revenue returning back to good growth momentum. This is on the back of three things. Firstly, we are seeing that our clients have resumed, especially our banking clients, have resumed some of their high priority transformation projects that were paused during the last year or slowed down. Those are back on track and they've prioritized the ones that they want to invest in. Which is really in the core area. So we see this as sustainable transformation spend. Secondly, we are seeing that clients are also doing vendor consolidations. And as part of the vendor consolidations, we've been on the right side of vendor consolidations. We've signed several new deals and master services agreements with clients, especially in the banking space. And that's reflective, and we are here to talk about one today. And third, but last but not the least, clients are making foundational investments in AI. And especially banks and tech companies, tech services companies are making those investments in a way that they can start to leverage AI across everything that they do in the organization. And those three tailwinds are the ones that have helped us grow this quarter and why we also feel that this growth is sustainable.
That's interesting. Let me then listen it from the horse's mouth itself. Johnson, it's great to have you on the show to get the perspective from the client side as well to understand how things are, because for the last 12 to 24 months, this entire sector has been clouded by uncertainty, delay in decision making, etc. How have things changed for you in the sense, how are you looking at decision making when it comes to the IT spends?
It's a real pleasure to be here, visiting from South Africa. We're a Pan-African bank, so we operate across the African continent. We're in 11 markets. South Africa is our largest, but we go from West Africa and Ghana to East Africa. We are still investing heavily into technology. The spend is up 8 to 10% a year. Why is that? Very simply, the African continent is a young continent. The average age is 19. Most of our customers, and increasingly our customers, are clearly digitally native, actually. So for us, the investment in digital, in data and technology is something that we are continuing to drive. Clearly, we use it to drive top-line growth, and then also clearly we use it to make sure that our cost of service, incrementally, we can control so that we can bring more and more customers and we can drive more and more financial inclusion on the continent.
That's great to hear, Johnson. But, Sudhir was talking about how LTIMindtree has been on the right side of vendor consolidation. Would you concur with the view? What made you choose, LTIMindtree for this particular contract?
Great, that's a great question. The relationship between LTI and ABSA, we'll soon no longer be teenagers. I think we're now 18 years old, which says a lot. Because both organizations have lived and evolved in that period. I've been in the ABSA bank only 18 months, but you're not in the bank long when you hear about the relationship with LTIMindtree. So it's a real delight that we are extending it for a further 5-year term, and it shows that both organizations really have a deep strategic partnership. And that's one that is enduring. That's one that I believe has been valuable to both LTIMindtree and to ABSA. And we look forward to more and more of it. And bringing the innovation, we were just in a discussion. There is technology and what we need to do day to day, but really what we are after is a partner that understands ABSA, understands our markets, and can help us bring technology that helps us outperform. And that in essence is why we're really delighted to extend the partnership that we have.
That's interesting. But Sudhir, are you sweetening the deal for ABSA and others by cutting down on your prices? Because that's one of the concerns. The margins this time around weren't as healthy as the street was expecting. And there is that chatter that in order to get growth, you're willing to let go of margins. Is that the right way to look at things?
I think if you look at the margin performance this quarter, we actually had two areas of investment. The first was visa costs. So visa costs were up because we applied for more number of visas. The second cost that went up was travel cost, and this was travel to on-site locations to start projects. So frankly, both these are indicators of growth. Higher number of visa applications, because projects tend to start on-site, and then as we ramp up the project, then we start to execute them from our global locations. So that's both, for me, these are both heartening indicators. And as DC guided yesterday as well, margins will be back on track. And in terms of the deals, I think what matters more is the structure, and as Johnson mentioned, the innovation that we're bringing to these deals. And that's really the value that clients are seeing with us.
Fair enough. So if I had to ask you for a bit more forward-looking outlook, is double digits something that we should start expecting, let's say at least by FY26, if not in FY25, given the demand environment right now and the fact that a lot of those political uncertainties across the globe will go away by the end of this year? And also in terms of margins, when do you see yourself hitting that 17% mark, Sudhir?
Yeah, I think, the global macro is still uncertain, so that's why we've said that the market conditions remain unchanged. I think what we are seeing is pockets of green shoots, where we are seeing growth emerging for us. So we are going to stay focused on those, on the areas that we can see, in terms of a secular fashion right now. And we have guided that, we'll see similar growth in Q2. From a banking perspective, which is 40, or by BFSI perspective, which is 40% of our revenue almost, we see that this trend will continue throughout FY25. So we'll continue to shore up our strength verticals, focus on those green shoots, and then see how the market evolves, especially towards the second half of the financial year. And then perhaps be a better position to give you some sense about growth rate in both FY25 and 26.
I had to try my luck, even though I know things are uncertain, but at least it's good to hear that BFSI is showing green shoots. Johnson, the other big buzzword in town has been generative AI and the kind of capabilities that it could drive. How are you looking at leveraging that? And what's your ask from, let's say, LTIMindtree as to how they can support you with that Gen AI implementation?
So that's actually a very interesting question. It's a very, very hot topic for us at ABSA, both at the board and the group executive. We were very early on into experimenting with generative AI, I think like most banks were. This year we've put in place some policies around the use of generative AI. We've got a very clear prioritization framework we use, because clearly the key thing with any technology is that you drive business outcomes and value from it, and you use it to better your customer experience, your client experience, your colleague experience. So we've been very deliberate in how we think about the prioritization of use cases in generative AI, and we're pushing that really, really hard.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.